the owner of the house at Bethany is actually Martha, and so we understand why she is responsible for the way in which the guest is welcomed. But is it not true that at times we miss the guest by preparing for him so well that we're not sharing his intimacy? Many a conversation doesn't happen because we're not actually meeting the guest. We think we are serving the conversation by being a glorified geezer and can't stop talking, but the guest has not been met. We have projected ourselves. Now, this can happen also in the way that we treat the Lord. Listen to this. You will have heard of the mystic, I think in Colombia, Catalina, and she was given interesting insights, lights, words about what we're doing. Right now at the altar, her eyes were opened to what we can't see. And I would like to share a few things that she saw and heard, because it hits actually this very point. Holy Communion, is that not the supreme moment when we should give our heart as hospitality to the guest? Listen. The people began to leave their pews in procession for Holy Communion. The great moment of the much-awaited encounter had arrived. The Lord said to me, "Wait a moment. I want you to observe something." An interior impulse made me raise my eyes towards the person who was going to receive communion on the tongue from the hands of the priest. I should clarify that this person was one of the ladies from our group who the previous night was unable to go to confession, but this morning was able to do so before Mass. When the priest placed the sacred host on her tongue, a flash of light, like a very golden white light, went right through this person, first through her back, then surrounding her from the back, around her shoulders, and then her head. The Lord said, "This is how I myself rejoice in embracing a soul who comes with a clean heart to receive me." Now, she has already been given an instruction at the beginning of the Mass. I think our Blessed Lady, in that case, indicates that she had not herself come in that tranquil mode which favoured encounter. She'd come at the last minute. Indeed, the procession was already starting, and she was corrected by our Blessed Lady with regard to the presumption that that implied. And also one or two faults were indicated that she had totally dismissed, because they were each faults against charity or whatever, which made her not 100% open to what was about to happen. Grime, and also turbulence. The tone of Jesus' voice was that of a happy person. I was astonished to see my friend return to her pew, surrounded by light, embraced by the Lord. I thought of the marvel that we miss so many times by going to receive Jesus with our small or large offences, when it should actually be a feast. Many a time we say that there are no priests to whom to go to confess at any given moment. However, now listen to this bit, it's an interesting remark. The problem is not about confessing at each given moment. Rather, the problem resides in the ease with which we fall into evil again. Now, there's a problem there on the level of relationship. It's not love to hurt the loved one. And we do that. Mentally we'll say, I'll confess it next time. The odd bad word, the odd lack of charity, and on we go. Grime, turbulence. On the other hand, in the same way that women make an effort to locate a beauty parlour, or men seek the services of a hairdresser when we have to attend a party, we have to also make a conscious effort to seek out a priest when we need to remove all that dirt from ourselves. We must not have the audacity to receive Jesus with our hearts full of filth. The Lord then gives her a teaching as regards the supreme nature of this gift of love that is Holy Communion. Concludes that bit with these words: I wanted to remain with you until the end of the centuries, because my love could not bear that you remained orphans, you whom I loved more than my life. When I returned to my seat while kneeling down, notice she kneels, the Lord said, listen. A moment later, I began to hear the prayers of the lady who was seated in front of me and who had just received communion. What she said, without opening her mouth, was more or less like this: Lord, remember that we are at the end of the month, and I do not have the money to pay the house rent, the car rentals, or the children's school fees. You have to do something to help me. Please, make my husband stop drinking so much. I cannot bear it more, his being intoxicated so often, and my youngest son is going to repeat the year again if you do not help him. He has his exams this week. And do not forget our neighbour who must move. Let her do it right away. I cannot stand her any more. And on she goes. Did you take note of her prayer? Asks the Lord. Not a single time did she tell me that she loves me. Now, this is the hospitality that the Lord wanted at that point. We are using the Lord as a kind of slot machine. This is a key moment to get what we want. Not a single time did she tell me that she loves me. Not once did she thank me for the gift that I have given her by bringing down my divinity to the level of her poor humanity, in order to elevate her to my godly status. Now, this is what the Greeks would refer to as the divinization of the soul. This is what's going on, actually, and she's making the shopping list. Not a single time has she said, thank you, Lord. It has been a litany of requests. And so are almost all of those who come to receive me. So, the one speaking here knows what he's talking about. It's the Lord himself. I have died for love, and I am risen. For love I await each one of you, and for love I remain with you. But you do not realize that I need your love. But remember that I am the beggar of love in this sublime hour for the soul. Now, it is true that Holy Communion is a moment when things can happen. I remember actually getting a letter from, he'd been with me at Kilnacron, he was ordained there, and he moved to America where he still is, Father Benedict, and he was mentioning in his early days there as a priest how when he needed light, it was at the altar while celebrating that it would come. So the priest has a certain privilege, obviously, in being in proximity with God and his angels, and things calmly come, intuitions come at that point. But for the laity, Holy Communion is the time, and it must be well shielded. I remember actually years ago in France, the abbot there, because this is when things weren't clear which way things would go, and he did say this to me. It's going back to 1976, 77, 56 it was. The moments of Holy Communion are privileged moments. So des moments privilégiés. And he indicated the way to discern the Lord's will by, at that point, seeing what the interior reactions were after making one decision as opposed to another. Was there peace coming? It's called discernment of spirits, and the Jesuits have it too in their Ignatian spirituality, the picking up of things. What's going on in the reactions of the soul when it makes one decision as opposed to another. That works, because the Lord doesn't make usually loud, dramatic noises. He has his language, and the language is that of letting us have a profound feeling of peace when we've made the right decision. Lifelong decisions are not made by ourselves alone. They're given over. So we give the terrain to the Lord to speak. It can be done, but it has to be done with care and standing back. Otherwise, we are in control, and the Lord can't get through to us. Noise is not the mode of making decisions which have effects over time. And with regard to that, the whole of the ethos of our encounter should be divine. A current day liturgy does not have that ambit. It has become very much a DJ mode, a performance mode, a gratifying mode. We come to be entertained. The fruits are what we see. And perhaps as a corrective for that, the Lord gave her to see what was actually going on. 2 points in particular. One, the offertory, when her eyes were opened to see all the guardian angels going towards the altar, carrying what they had to carry, often very little and even sometimes nothing at all. We are not engaging. But then it went into a crescendo mode, and when it came to the consecration, it was all happening. Angels of all sorts, myriads of angels. St. Michael was there, and the Blessed Virgin was there, actually just behind the celebrant. But the celebrant was in front of her. And she also gave her a teaching with regard to the fact that she was behind the celebrant. And also the power of the priesthood came through. It comes again also as this volume closes, the blessing. It is Trinitarian. God himself is there. And I remember actually in Rome as a young priest hearing in one homily this from the rector. At that point I was living with Americans for a while in the missionary college, Merino, and he therefore, as a senior priest, was coming out with stories of things he'd lived and known in Africa all his life. And he just came out with this, which I leave you with, to be aware of the power that we have, which is not ours, but we need to honour and give space to without adding our own bit. It's not necessary, it just gets in the way. He said this: we priests do not know the power that we have. One day he said, this lady came to me with her dying child, tiny little boy, maybe even still in the arms of the mother. I think it was actually. No medical care, just imminent death. Father, maybe you could give a blessing. And so, with great sincerity and simplicity, he did. And his consecrated, anointed, priestly hands traced the sign of the cross over that child with a sincere prayer from the heart. And his one comment was, now that child